sustainability at Montana State, creating a sustainable future today, because we know that time is of the essence in everything that we do with respect to climate change, our carbon emissions, and overall sustainability. So I'm grateful in particular to be speaking to students tonight, because the history of sustainability at MSU really does start with students. And it's sort of a recent past type thing. So in 2009, the Associated Students of MSU imposed a fee upon themselves to create a sustainability fee at MSU. And that was initially just to start a recycling program. That was kind of the extent of what sustainability meant at MSU. So this is, I came on board in 2013. And this is the first group of students who worked in my office. They've all long since graduated and are working locally for the most part. But they were really tremendously dedicated in starting a recycling program and keeping that up and running, in some cases without a boss, because the program was transitioned, and I can talk about that in a second. And so these students here in particular, pardon me?
I could pause this. It's the Zoom for the...
Oh, okay. Kept this going without any... We have a lot to be grateful for that. But this is kind of my view of recycling and sustainability. So recycling is really important, but in my opinion, it's really kind of the tip of the iceberg in terms of what we need to think about in terms of global sustainability. And so while I'm grateful that we have the roots of sustainability in recycling at campus, I'm really kind of more interested in getting into everything that in some cases, and this is especially true at MSU, in some cases it's stuff that's happening that we don't even see. So we'll take it from there. So I also wanted to start off with a quick conversation about what is sustainability. It's a really broad term. It's used in every category as befitting each sector. So I'm currently getting my master's in business administration. So we hear about sustainability a lot, but they don't mean environmental sustainability. They're talking about, is your business going to survive for the next year? And sustainability is a relatively new term in Western knowledge. So it came into sort of common usage in the 80s following a report about sustainable development when folks at the UN looked around at what humans were now capable of doing, and how much we were altering our planet. And so they decided to write a report about how we might meet the needs of the present without compromising needs of the future. And so that has kind of turned into the definition of sustainability. It feels especially funny sometimes, or odd sometimes, talking about sustainability at Montana State University, given our history of First Nations and Indigenous people and how they were able to live in a more sustainable fashion. So we have a lot, in my opinion, to learn and a lot to unlearn, probably. But this is really kind of the root of what I want to talk about. So most commonly when you talk about sustainability, it's looking at the 3 Ps or the 3 Es. So people, planet, profit, we'll hear that, or environment, economy, and society, and which is a mix of this. And I have a real story about this because I had to make a choice, quite frankly, about whether or not I wanted to go into grad school for ecology. I was working on a fellowship, or whether or not I wanted to take this job up here at MSU. And while I was out doing research on climate or sea level rise in rocky intertidal zones, I was very concerned about it. Our small lab was very concerned about this. And then it was kind of telling because the study site was actually right next to a pretty major road. So I would look up every day and realize that as much as I cared about this, I wasn't going to be able to accomplish much except write an obituary about and what I really needed to work on was helping other people have an understanding of how our actions are impacting the natural world. But also, one of the things that I think is really important to remember when we're talking about sustainability is that it's not separate. So we're not separate from the environment. We're in it, and we need it. And the environment, in a lot of cases, needs us. We're not separate from the economy, and the economy and the environment are not separate. We've had society has kind of constructed these arbitrary separations, and really the sweet spot is when you make decisions in harmony, or at least in balance with all of these different factors. And that's really the root of my job at MSU, is trying to ensure that planning decisions, budgetary decisions that we make for, what we build, how we get to campus, what we do once we get there, are considering other factors besides just cost, quite frankly. So although it's important, but it's not the only factor. And so essentially what we do, and this is our office, we're right across the hall from the Procrastinator Theater, and we collect a lot of information. We are the keepers of a lot of the data that we use to make decisions on campus. And then hopefully we connect people. So I always kind of joke that we're the greenmatch.com. We really do thrive connecting people to, if we can't help you get directly involved with our office, then we really want to help you get connected to the people who can either support your independent research project, support, get you connected in the right lab or the right class. We by nature have to question everything. So we want to, the most dangerous words I can hear in an institution are this: we've always done it this way. So I don't think anyone on this call or anyone really at MSU woke up and was like, hey, how am I going to screw up the planet today? But through our actions, that's what's happening. And so we have kind of inherited a lot of systems that were designed in one way, and we need to rethink how we do that. So really trying to question why we do what we do, and is there a better way that's more environmentally friendly that will help us reach our carbon neutrality goals, all those things. And then, this is the hard part about sustainability, right? It requires constant improvement. I remember long ago having a discussion with one of the vice presidents on campus, and he turned to me and he's like, because I was pushing on his department quite a bit to make some changes and improvements, and he was like, when does this end? When does this stop? Because it doesn't. Can always do better, and we always should be looking for ways to do better. So I want to draw attention when I talk about to what we do as our office. We did a benchmark for sustainability. So a sustainability assessment, this is called STARS. It's an international program. It's transparent. It's third-party verified. You can go onto the website and look up every institution that's reported and see how they're doing and compare. You can compare MSU to schools in your hometown, compare us to Harvard, compare us to University of Montana. Really, it was a first look at kind of a peek under the hood to say, hey, what are we doing well, and what things do we really need to improve upon? And based on that, we had a couple shocking sort of realizations. One is that sustainability is being taught in 80% of our classes. It doesn't necessarily feel like that at MSU. So we need to work on how we can coordinate efforts better to make sure that we reflect that really the interest of the students and the interest of the faculty is, this is a major concern for them. They're teaching it, and we need to kind of give that the attention it needs. And, just all down the line. And especially we have a really large research contingent that is focused on sustainability. And some of you might already know that. You might be working in labs to do that. But I think today my quest is to help you, your particular chosen major or what your passion is, to make room for sustainability within that. From day one, I've told my boss since I got here that, if I'm truly successful, I'll put myself out of a job, because I really don't think it should be one person focusing on this. It should be part of everyone's operations job description. So this is also something that we collect. So I don't expect anybody to kind of look at this, but I think it's fun to look at data and kind of notice patterns. And so I want to draw your attention. Atticus, can you see my mouse if I do that? Is that true? Okay, perfect. So what you're looking at here is the energy use and intensity. So how much energy is used in each building and over the year that they're constructed. So Taylor Hall is the oldest building on campus. It was built in 1896. And then we kind of see this upward trajectory, Swingle Health, and then looking into the 70s. So this is pre-air conditioning, and then you start getting into the air-conditioned days where we just built boxes, closed them up, and air-conditioned them. And then I want to draw your attention to this corner over here. So this is Gallatin Hall, Jabbs Hall, Yellowstone Hall. I'll explain these two in a second. Normas Bjornson Hall, which is a massive building that's over 100,000 square feet, is the most energy efficient building on campus. And then this will be our new residence hall. So we're getting much better at responding to this challenge now that we've added that as one of the criteria. So when we were designing in the past, people weren't concerned about climate change. They weren't concerned about their carbon emissions, greenhouse gas emissions. Energy was cheap. Air conditioning was cheap relative. And so this was sort of what you get. So there's these two anomalies here are the Miller Dining Hall and Rendezvous. And that's a little bit of a misnomer. We did a renovation for Miller and we increased it. So we made it twice as efficient. The number of meals using less energy than prior to the building. And then Rendezvous is projected to be a third more efficient than Miller. Just kitchens are really energy intense, actually. So we're trying to do the best we could with that. But I thought this kind of tells a good story. And then you kind of look at this pattern or look at this, and then what this tells me and tells all the engineers I work with, okay, we're getting pretty good at designing energy efficient buildings. I mean, Norm and Jabs are well within net zero energy targets once we get more renewable energy on campus. So now the big question is, how do we retrofit our systems to do the same thing for the rest of these other buildings? Because that's one of the fun parts about MSU is we never tear anything down. And the reason I say this is because what gets you have to have a pretty good backup of data, and that's where we can nerd out forever with sustainability. We who knew that we were such nerds, data nerds about this, but you know, you sometimes can use your data to get just to the roof and then sometimes to the moon. And a lot of times we have to start going to the roof in order to, with these pilot projects around campus, which are a great way for students to get involved before we take the big leap and start to make larger plans. So yeah, so with that, you know, more slides I can slip through, but this is kind of, I wanted to talk about our greenhouse gas emissions for a second. And this is a little bit out of date. We're just getting our new greenhouse gas inventory finished right now, but you can really see the trajectory of gross emissions down here versus an increase in campus square footage. This is the increase in people on campus. So this is another real challenge of sustainability, which is how do you limit your emissions despite growth in every sector on campus, people and buildings, et cetera. So that's one of the challenges that we have. And let's see, oops. And then another thing, so I wanted to throw it back to recycling because that's one of the very first things we started taking measurements on and setting a public goal. So we initially had a goal of a 25% diversion rate by 2020. And last year even despite the pandemic, which turned the world overnight into plastic and takeaway. We had a diversion rate of 32%. So starting from a program when I got here in 2013, we were averaging about 9% diversion rate a year. I'm tremendously proud of this. And then one of the most fun things is we started a composting pilot program working directly with students and classes to do food waste audits. From that, we designed a composting program in Miller Dining Hall and expanded that to Rendezvous when that came on board. And last year, we diverted over 550,000 pounds of food waste from landfill, just from those 2 dining halls and our catering kitchens. So some of these little things have a big, big impact when you kind of can get the right systems in place. So tremendously proud of MSU for that. And you should be too every time you're in Miller and you scrape your plate. Thank you. So yeah, one of the things I'm most proud about too for our office is how we connect people. We like to connect students to projects, faculty to projects. I work with several faculty who call me up every year, and I need projects for their classes or students to work on them with independent studies. So I really wanted to take this opportunity to introduce our office as sort of a place to come to either email or knock on our door and say, hey, I'm interested in this, and can you help me either find someone to work with or help me develop this project on my own. So, and Paul Edlund, who is our project coordinator, I know is on the call. This is what fills his cup. He is definitely wonderful person to work with. He's a great asset to our office, and he's got lots of energy and to work with students. So I really do hope you meet Paul, maybe put him on the spot when I stop sharing my screen, and we can, so hopefully you think of us as your sustainability dating app for campus. This is an example, to bring it back, of connecting people and students, the overwhelming power of students and your leadership on campus. So this is Chelsea. She graduated a few years ago, but she was working with us as a master's student. We worked with her, and it turned out when they were building Jabs Hall, they wanted to do a passive solar feature on Jabs Hall. So this is a little bit out of scale. So this is Jabs on the left side of the screen, and this is Norm Asbjornsen Hall on the right side of the screen. Through Chelsea's research, as a student at MSU, we were able to understand how this passive solar wall was working, and in a lot of ways quell a lot of doubts people had about this technology, and also about sort of the efficacy of that, even in Montana, even with trees, even with shading. So given her research, and this is pretty tiny, I would encourage you to kind of go out and walk around Jabs and see it. Chelsea's actually pretty tiny. And then, so based on her research, when we were building Norm Asbjornsen Hall, we had the confidence to create 10 times more of that passive solar wall, which is providing that building with over 10% of just its heating or energy savings just passively. So we would have to put something on that wall cladding anyway. It's getting energy for free. And that is a direct result of student projects and student ideas. So I hope if you take anything away from this talk tonight, it's that you really do have an opportunity to make a huge impact, a positive impact, not just for yourself. So Chelsea was snapped up for, she had so many job offers, it was crazy. And is now working with one of the leading engineering firms in Seattle for but really to use your time to benefit you on campus, but using your time which in a way that also might possibly benefit MSU and the future students who come after you. Another example of that is our geothermal system that we have. So when I talked about how some of our sustainability is hidden, this is what it looked like over the summer in front of Romney Hall. There are now a geothermal field in front of there. Those geothermal wells go 700 feet deep. So we're learning and we're getting better at that as well. The first geothermal wells that we put in, they're in that green field in between Jabs and Rendezvous Dining Hall. So that was 500 feet deep, connected, kind of more of a heat exchange. So the way I like to describe this, because it's not geothermal like you would have in Iceland, it's not super hot water that's generating electricity through steam. This is more of a battery storage. So, or as I like to say, because we've connected all of these buildings, and that's something we learned through and now analyzing our building data, is that some buildings were needing a lot of heat and others were just wasting it, throwing it out into the atmosphere. So they were overheating, so to speak. And so what we're trying to do is take that energy that would normally be out into the atmosphere and then store it in these geothermal wells underground and then move those between buildings that need it. So the engineers I work with probably kind of cringe, but I always sort of liken it to Venmo for energy on campus. So this is part of the Romney deal. So there's geothermal wells there. The reason, and this is really important, the reason we have a geothermal program on campus is because of a student idea, a student project, engineering capstone project. He walked around campus and was just thinking about things and curious and wondering, what the potential for geothermal would be on our campus, given how close we are to Yellowstone and all the hot springs in our area. So with mentorship, with the faculty advisor, they got funding and did boreholes all throughout campus to test that potential. So we weren't a good candidate for super hot water to produce steam, but we're an excellent, excellent candidate for these geothermal systems. And so based on that initial student project, we had the confidence to go forward and design that first system at Jabs. And then we've been monitoring how Jabs works and have now gone from 50 wells on campus to almost 200. So the American Indian Hall building will have its own set of geothermal wells. Norm Asbjornson has some, and then the Romney field will kind of connect what we're calling South Energy District. So yeah, can't understate, even if you guys think your idea is wild, like, let's try it, you know what I mean? So who knows how that might turn out. And then another thing, so we're striving, and this is all in partnership with students, to do zero waste events. These are things that when I first got here, people laughed in our face that it was impossible. So if someone tells you that your idea is impossible, please don't believe them. It might take a little longer than you think it should, but everything is possible. So this was the first meal in fall of 2019. We had over 4,000 students and their families, and we had our first ever zero waste event on campus. And then we just turned around and started replicating that through all of the rest of our large events, all again made possible through the research that we started with pilot projects out of our office with students, and then partnering with the appropriate facilities organizations. So this was a big day because, and we're hopeful when things return to more normal that we can do this again. We have no plans to go back from anything besides zero waste events moving forward. So that's, I guess I would almost end with this in a way. It's not sustainability, even though I have the great honor and privilege of having that be 100% of my job description. The reality is I can't do it alone. And the reason why I work at a university is because I love to work with students and love to hear your ideas, and then get you connected with the right person to take your passion and your idea for changing MSU. And also for, hopefully scaling that up for when you leave MSU and put that into action. So I really would say that it's up to all of us to kind of question and start to look around our campus and say, hey, how can I make this better? And then speaking of that, just a shout out, we're participating for the first time in MSU Giving Day. So we're going to be setting up an MSU Sustainability Ambassadors program hopefully. And so we'll be scaling up how many students our office can handle and mentor at the same time. So stay tuned and keep us in mind if you need a place to work on campus. And yeah, with that, I can close and see if we have any time for questions. So. And I talked too fast, sorry.
No, you're good. Yes, no, you're fine. I was going to say thank you so much for that presentation, and I was wondering if you think this is a good time to give Rose some space to talk about snow.
Absolutely.
Okay, great. Rose, if you'd like to go ahead with that.
Yeah, I would be happy to. This shouldn't take too long. I don't have as much to say. But thank you for sharing some of those cool projects with me, or all of us. I didn't even know about some of them, so that's awesome. So my name is Rose Vivoda, and I am currently serving as the president of the Student Club Sustainability Now, which is better known as SNOW. Our mission at SNOW is to systematically unify the student voice behind climate change and local sustainability. We also work with to facilitate student service, promote education, spark activism for environmental and social justice, and we're also working to create a close-knit community of people that are all passionate about sustainability. We do this through collaboration with MSU staff and faculty and students, such as partnering with Honors Presents to help put this lecture on. And we really enjoy working with all of the MSU students to help make their sustainability endeavors become reality, which is awesome to hear Kristin talk about some of these student projects become reality. So one of our biggest focuses for the last semester has been working to use our connections and our experience to create a food recovery network program on our campus. And this program would help us to reduce the amount of food waste on campus, which it's already really nice to see recycling and especially the compost. But this would specifically be for food that is already prepared and no one eats it. And so our program would take that food and then partner with local organizations like the Gallatin Valley Food Bank to help us not waste as much food. If you're interested in joining SNOW, please come and join us next Thursday, the 28th at 6:30 in JABS 311, where we will be having the first meeting of the semester. We have a couple of leadership positions that are currently needing to be filled, so that's a great way to get more involved on campus and within SNOW. So come and talk to us if you're interested in that. We are always happy to talk about potential projects and just talk about like-minded individuals that get excited about sustainability. I think that's pretty much all I've got. So yeah, thank you for letting me say a few things.
Thank you, Rose. I'd just like to, one thing I didn't realize when I was a student many moons ago was really the power of student activism, and especially through clubs and the efforts that you do. So there are a lot of things that students can advocate for, ask for, demand that I can't because I'll get fired, and I do like to ski in Bozeman. So please know that you do, as students, are in a really unique position to push for change. My office is direct evidence of that. There would be no sustainability program if it wasn't for student leadership demanding it and stepping up to the plate to initially start to fund it. Our program was restructured a few years ago so that it's jointly funded by administration and finance and students. So you aren't the only ones that are footing the bill for sustainability anymore, which I think is a big move. But that also took lobbying by students to say, hey, campus, like this isn't just something that students care about. It needs to be something that is institutionalized and embedded through all of your efforts. So yeah, please, if I could go back in a time machine, I would join clubs like this. So, and really learn how to advocate for what you think is really important. because they all know, President Cruzado knows what I'm going to say when I walk in the room now. She's known me long enough, so she knows what I care about. But it's nice to hear it from other people once in a while too. So, yeah, okay. So, and I can respond to some of the chats too. So, Drake, I can email, if you send me an email to sustainability@MSU, I can send you that slide, and I can also share the slides with Rosie, or I mean, sorry, Ray. If you have a website for honors lecture series, I'm happy to share the presentation with you. So
yeah, we do. Yeah, that would be great.
Yeah, some of the
and
things
then I think.
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
No, you're totally fine. You go first.
So I was going to say some of the things I forgot to mention are that we're this next semester and over this next year, or over the summer, right now I'm starting a small working group that's looking at our like the finance, basically trying to set a carbon neutrality goal by examining everything that we have on campus. So about 25% of our energy is still on fossil fuels. So how do we plan for the transition off of that? And so I'll have a technical scoping group looking at that. And then for the first time ever, which I'm really excited about, we'll be doing a financial analysis to go along with it. So it's not just a pipe dream, because that is a big goal of mine, is to help MSU reach their carbon neutrality goals ahead of 2100, which I think is what they kind of punted to. So in their last climate action plan. So yeah, we're working with helping MSU, sort of take that next leadership role. We've done a lot, but we can always, like I said, we can always be doing more. So if anyone has questions about that too, or how to get involved with us this summer and next fall, I'd be really, we're going to need all the help we can get for that too. So it'd be an interesting, fun project. Yeah, I know I missed out on things. So I think I'm going to put him on the spot. He just turned his camera on, but Paul Edlund, you can wave. He's the project coordinator who's in our office in sub 280 and one of the nicest people you'll ever meet. So Paul, I forgot to give a special shout out to your Green Office program, which again is the result of students coming to us and saying, hey, help me do this idea. So just one of the many things I didn't mention tonight. So do you have anything to add, Paul?
Yeah.
Hi, everyone. I just wanted to introduce myself. My name is Paul, and Kristin was right on the dot. It's literally my job as the project coordinator in the Office of Sustainability to be excited and help your guys' dreams come true in a lot of special ways. My email, I can put it in the chat box for your consideration. I would totally encourage you to go out and reach out to me over email and say, hey, I've got this great idea and I'd love to make it happen. Obviously, COVID looks a little bit different these days, and the door is usually wide open to meet people, and we're looking forward to making that happen, especially when things are a little bit safer around the world. But please go ahead and email me, and I'd love to get to know you and keep on making things happening. Definitely want to throw out a shout out to Rose and Ben. They're doing some awesome things in Snow, and that's a great community to go ahead and get plugged in and make things happen here on campus. But hope to meet you all soon, and thanks for being here, everyone.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I was a little sad pulling pictures today because we have all these, I have photos from mixer events, and Snow historically has thrown a huge party called Sustainability Bash in April, which is something we're really looking forward to doing again. So we'll get back there bigger and better. So yeah, does anybody have any other questions?
Yes. While we wait for some questions, while you think of them or write them in the chat, I also wanted to talk about another club that is on campus, and I guess it's less of a club, but it's called the Campus Climate Coalition. And what it is a group of cross-campus and community collaboration. And the members range from faculty and staff to students, and then also professionals in Bozeman and around the state. And the main goal of this coalition is to create a place for allies to converge and connect people when work can otherwise kind of seem fractured. And it's just a way to like coalesce all of the ideas and projects going on and really like redirect people if they're looking to see what's happening in the state and on campus. And one of the current focuses right now is a reinvestment campaign. Sometimes it's called a divestment campaign, and then just other types of cross-campus collaboration. And if this sounds interesting to you all, we meet on Mondays at 11 a.m. on WebEx. And feel free to just send me an email, and I can put my email in the chat, and I will redirect you to Paul LaChapelle, who has the listserv, and he can add you to the emails, which then you can get the link to the meetings. But I highly recommend anybody who is so inclined, feels that climate change is a compelling issue. Right now, we all need to like gather our strength and show that the students really care and want the endowment and other investment to reflect the values that MSU stands for. So that's just some background on that. And let me see if in the chat there are any questions. Not so far, but I'll give you all a second to think and see if there's anything you would like to ask Kristin, and also Paul and Rose too for Snow.
Let's see. Oh, okay.
So William said, I know Bozeman City has a comprehensive plan to driving down the city's carbon emissions, really front of the line plans. Do you guys, the Office of Sustainability, Snow, MSU in general, cooperate with the city on that route at all? Specifically on issues like the work with Northwestern Energy to clean up fuel or better transportation systems?
Yeah, that is a great question. So yeah, the city just updated their climate action plan, which was really, it's on the website. I can include that link too, or the Bozeman City website. A really comprehensive, ambitious, and almost like a love letter to the city of Bozeman in a plan. So the short answer is yes, we collaborate with the city of Bozeman all the time on climate action plans. I was part of the committee that drafted that, and then also in partnership with Northwestern Energy. So we are in Northwestern Energy, we're in discussions with them about potential green tariffs, which is new to them, but that's something we'd like to engage in. And then also just looking at, kind of helping Northwestern Energy meet their own goals. So they have a carbon neutrality goal of 2040. So we'd like to be part of their continued success. We technically can't buy energy from anyone else but Northwestern Energy. So and one other, we're part of a Western Area Power Agreement, which is our hydro power, but that's also routed through Northwestern Energy. So it's in our best interest. Northwestern Energy takes a leadership role in this area, and we're do that. So on water conservation efforts, stormwater efforts. See some of the upgrades. I didn't even that, but over the past few years, we've done to our facility. We can so over the summer we replaced saving 1.1 million, or no, sorry, close to 5 million gallons of up at high at MSU. It's Bozeman's where we live and we're part of it. For reference, MSU is a small city into itself, but we account for about 16% of Bozeman's emissions overall. So the faster we can clean up our own greenhouse gas emissions at MSU, the faster Bozeman will be able to meet those goals as well. So great question.
Kristin, I don't know if you could sum up those like main points that you just said because you were breaking up a little bit throughout that
Oh,
response.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Yeah.
No problem.
Yeah, we are a huge part of the Bozeman footprint. So just in general, MSU is a big part of the population of Bozeman. And then also we account for 16% of their overall energy use. So we definitely work in partnership with them to reduce our emissions, to help them reduce theirs, and then also to be good partners with Bozeman, City of Bozeman, as they negotiate new arrangements with Northwestern Energy. Yeah.
Thank you.
Oh, thanks. Sorry. It's hard to know. I'm over here
problem.
rambling along.
Yeah, no worries.
Let's
While
see.
we wait to see if any more questions come in, there was one question within the Campus Climate Coalition as to whether or not there are any current initiatives to try and get recycling bins inside of dorm rooms, or like what the dorm recycling situation currently looks like.
Yeah, so that we had them before COVID, and then it was one of the first things. We don't know why, but that was a residence hall decision. So we'll keep trying to get them back in. That is, my guess is that this year they might stay out for the remainder of spring semester, but we will be opening up fall semester with everything back in place. So let's see. Okay, and then some other, so I think divestment is a huge and important issue. And I think over the past few years, it's gotten much easier. So it was a year ago, almost exactly, that BlackRock, if any of you are familiar with this, it's the world's largest investment firm. They manage other people's money. They manage some of their own money. They started divesting from fossil fuels, and because they are the first company to really come out strongly and say that, to equate climate risk with economic risk, and to really acknowledge the fact that you can't separate those two anymore, and that we've done a really good job of ignoring the fact, the true, like, that climate risk, because it's been a slow moving crisis. It's been easy to ignore, and that's detrimental to people's wealth management, for lack of a better term. So BlackRock, that was kind of a watershed moment, and I think following their leadership, a lot of other places will probably get in line, because they are holding CEOs, board of directors accountable if they are not positioning their investments to consider sustainability and the massive climate change risks, then they're being removed from boards. Matt is on the phone, Matt Bain. He and some of his fellow students got very close to, we're having great discussions with our MSU Alumni Foundation, which in terms of investments is fairly small, but it's still important. Every little bit counts. Very close to getting them to, at least they weren't ready to divest, to start creating some separate accounts that would be more socially responsible, ESGs. And then Trump was elected, and the whole conversation changed, because financially he did, if I was a different type of person, I might have invested in coal the day Trump got elected, because that skyrocketed. You could have made a lot of money really fast. It's not a good financial sound decision right now. And I think with Biden as president and his policies, we're back in the climate accord. He is the first president to put a climate change expert in every single department. And then he's really been explicitly stating that climate change is economic risk. So coincidentally, the person who was instrumental in getting BlackRock to change their position is now Biden's head of the Economic Commission. So his name is Brian Deese. So if you're interested in looking that up, it's fascinating. So I'm like a lot of people, cautiously optimistic. But I think, especially in terms of divestment and from our meetings, and not to put people on the spot, but really the forcing, I think the argument that people used to have that it wasn't a good, sound financial decision is not a valid argument anymore. So the conversation's really changed. So, okay. Did that answer? Hopefully that didn't cut out. So.
Yeah, that was great. And Kate said thank you. And
sorry, I could talk about that for days, because I think it's so important, not just as, we, as students, as humans, and especially people of means in the United States, and I don't say that lightly. I know it's what it's like to be a struggling college student, but relative to the rest of the world, we won the lottery every day that we get to wake up and live in Bozeman and go to university. I think it's really important to look at to take into account your financial decisions where you can, and then also, so there's the consumer arm that drives the market, and then there's also the citizenship arm. So what you do when you go to the polls, and hopefully those two things can work together to drive real change. Think about that a lot. So I also work for an accountant, so I have to think about money. That's the funny part about my job. I can't ever go in and say, hey, I've got a hunch, or my gut's telling me that this is going to be a really good thing. I have to show with data and numbers. So, but that usually works to our advantage. So,
yeah. And I think it's a good point for you to bring up that it matters the way that you relay information. Like, it's not only about what you're trying to convey, but how you convey it.
Yeah. I'm guilty of that too. Sometimes I get so passionate that you turn people off. Like there's like, I don't want to hear that anymore. So I have to be aware of, like, when I'm getting all fired up, like, am I doing my message harm, and so try to like calm down and think about how, I think that's a big part, especially like, I think if I've had any level of success at MSU, it's because of I've been able to put myself in the other person's shoes. A really good example of that is when I first came here, and this is a long time ago, and hopefully, thank God none of you have to be subjected to the kind of food that we used to serve in our dining halls. But it was like steam table cafeteria kind of, it was, and nothing vegetarian, nothing vegan, nothing, really catering to allergies. And that was a big hot button issue for our students. So I was trying to mediate that with those employees. And at first I was all, like fired up, like, you need to make these changes. And then I took a step back and I asked if I could just tour their facility. And you realize that, basically they were having to hire people based on BMI, because they were serving 10,000 meals a day in a kitchen that was designed in 1950 that was for 2,000 students tops. And so when you have that understanding and you start working with people, seeing it turned into, well, okay, we're going to make some changes. Now, what do you, because we had built that trust and understanding that, it was sort of like, now they're so far out ahead of what I thought they would be capable of doing. We have a farm to campus program. We have vegan stuff in our dining halls. We started tracking, creating a different accounting system, and they were, buying more local food than like the Valley could handle. So it's pretty fun to sit back and watch that, not to mention all of the other cool stuff they do, like indigenizing our food system. And that's been the fun part. I would always caution people to try and put yourself in someone else's shoes and have compassion, even when you violently disagree, which I do and have even today, actually. So
yes.
had some violent disagreements over the lunch hour today. So.
I think that's such valuable advice. Thank you, Kristin.
Thanks.
And then there was another question from William, and he says that you were talking about Northwestern Energy and how they aim to be neutral by 2040. What can we as students and consumers do to put pressure on them to clean up faster?
Yeah, I think I've been working with the city of Bozeman to do some kind of more public events around what Northwestern Energy's plan is. So I would encourage you to go check out their website and their plan, and then get into the details. And then I will, and that's a really good question, because a lot of that is really happening sort of behind the scenes with a few people, but that doesn't mean that it couldn't be hastened with a bunch of student support. So, maybe I could invite one of the things I could do is host a lecture series inviting Northwestern Energy to meet students to see what's on your mind. That would probably be that would be incredibly impactful. So I'm going to write that note down right now and follow up with this group specifically. And I'd probably get the word out for that through Snow, just FYI. So let's see. Okay. Great. Oh, wow, that went quick. Are there any other questions?
Yeah.
Yeah. And thank you guys. I recently, I know, I'm assuming many of you are freshmen, and I just want to really congratulate you on your and your just courage through a really bizarre freshman year. It's like you're all incredibly brave, and I can't say enough how much I want to make it up to you for everything that you may have felt like you missed. So next year, I saw a silly meme on Instagram that was like, no wonder people in the 20s went crazy after their own pandemic. And I'm like, oh yeah, I can feel that too. So yeah, I want to just honor what you guys have been through this semester or this past year, and thank you for your continued determination to not just improve campus, but also the world. I mean, I think it's pretty astonishing. And I'm very incredibly proud of all of you. So let's see. Yeah, so thank you. And thank you for listening to me blather on tonight.